Good. All right, welcome into your restorative. We're going to start with a expansive rib and waist sensation in our horizontal chest opener. So I want you to have a bolster across the mat and then also have your block in front at the lowest setting. Now you can opt to do this pose without the block. I like to have something that's a little more comfortable for the curve of my back body and actually the front body, right? This kind of helps that wave be a little bit more subtle. But you can tell that if you don't use the block, you can slide it out and feel how that is arranging in your breathing. But I want us to start so we feel kind of the whole kind of foundation of our breath. And as we sit on the block with our tailbone centered on it, this is a good way to get to know your tailbone today. And as you lower back, let the abdomen, see if you can feel it, the curve there, and as if you don't even have to present any type of tension or motion, you just use the props to center, and that's all you need, is to center on the props in the beginning. Walk the feet in so that the knees may start with a little bit of swerving out, and then I want you to relax the legs together. So this could mean my knees are bending. This could mean my legs are descending straight down. And this is when you begin to kind of customize the entry pose, right? So as we come into this shape, horizontal chest opener, we've got our blanket, one or two under your head. You've got a belt behind you, and it's hopefully maybe connected in a loop, or if it's not, we'll loop it up later. And your stand could be either across the upper rib spaces, well, actually upper rib would be at the collar, but into the larger rib spaces or down to the thigh lids if the legs are close together and extended. Okay, so as you offer this entry shape into your breathing awareness, you can change it anytime, right? You can even shift entirely out of the pose. There's no pose police here. Okay. Now with the expansiveness, the expansive pressure, right, with my back pushing into the bolster, that touch is part of what we want to stimulate the flow of lymph, right? So it's not only rolling on the ball, that stuff we do, but it's also our deep touch with the props, right? The sandbag, that's deep touch in some way because it's pressing, it's weightful. And then as you open out through the arms, just find that proper beginning to center, relaxing your eyes, and then feeling as the facial muscles begin to soften, the throat, its gentle motion without talking or having anything go through it, right? Like food or drink. You're just relaxing your face, your throat, and feeling the breath move in through your nose and maybe out through the nose. Shoulders releasing back. Spine strengthening. Just scanning the body for the sensations of elongation. Right, that could be felt in just the front space for some of us. I feel that mostly in regards to the front, but there is elongation right in my spine with the curve right now. And if it's too harsh for your back, you just walk your feet in, bend the knees, pointing up or drawing them together, and still feel how you can begin to open up through the respiratory rhythms, the intercostals expanding between each rib and relaxing on the out breath. Let's just be here for another minute or so. And give your hips credit for being weighted, whether you have sand on them or not, right? Feeling that they're they're weighted down, not just your upper back is pressure, but the hips, the pelvis, weighted down to support the curves of the spine and the openness of our chest. Now, those of us with the legs extending are straight-ish. Feel if you can let the shoulder blades kind of squeeze towards the bolster. And instead of trying to push the feet further down, it's kind of tempting when you have a wall, though, to push into it. But feel if you can emphasize this length in the core via the openness of the chest. Okay, and take a few more moments here. If my knees are bending, I can feel the arch of my lower back, but I don't want to push deeper in that. It's almost as if I'm lengthening down into the tailbone, kind of in between tail down and tail under, relaxing the tail, even if it's on a block. Okay. All right, and now let's all bend the knees so we walk the feet up, and you're going to move the sand to the side, and then take a belt. Okay. So for some reason, I'm keeping it with 2 blankets today under my head. It feels like that's what I need. But you can always go down to 1. It's all up to you. And just if it feels safe, it feels supportive, you take that opportunity to reduce it down to 1. But if you feel more comfortable in your neck today to have 2, you take 2. Okay. So I'm holding the belt wider than shoulder width apart. I'm holding and I'm pulling it a little bit. Kind of pull it as if it's one of those TheraBands, you know, the Dynabands that you can get a little more resistance and squeeze in the lat muscles. So pull it and then bring the right foot up and the right knee. See if you can just tuck it a little bit towards your chest. What's kind of interesting on this one is if your left foot is sole of the foot on the ground, your bolster might feel like it's kind of being drawn down, okay? And then lower the right foot down and switch sides. Left foot up, bring the left knee in. You're trying to get exactly, keep pulling on the belt, the same height, which you might not be able to find out unless you were to peek at your leg. But see if you can maybe close your eyes once you get the gist of it and feel, really find that somatic experiencing of feeling even from one side to the next, moving the knee in. I don't have any idea if in the video it's actually even, but I'm working towards the felt sense to me. Okay, and now you're going to move your belt towards the knee as it draws up. So I'm going to pull on the belt and move it towards my knee. See if you can get as close as possible. And then as you lower the foot down, then stretch your arms back overhead. And then switch sides, and very little time in between the two. You're kind of winding up in the hip flexors and the back body, because we're going to go into inversion next. It's going to be kind of interesting. And feel how the knee draws in before we start moving it out to the side. Okay, how we're going to do that is with the ball, so it'll be a little different, but we're working with the science behind this here. So next time you bring the arms to move back, just hold maybe a little bit higher than you did when the arms were straight behind your head. Just a little bit higher, not quite straight over the heart, a little bit back, and feel the arms trying to straighten. So if I'm bending my elbows like this, I'm going to try to straighten the arms, slide my hands out on the belt a little bit. Okay, so I feel that concentration in the upper back, and then just drop your belt, okay, behind you. And actually be careful here because we're going to get rid of one blanket. So bring your belt over to the side and go down to one blanket under your head. You don't want to bury it. And then if you slide back so that your head is on the blanket, you want to be a little careful here that the blanket is from the center of the back of your skull and above. Okay, so this way, I want you to walk your feet in, knees point up, and then feel the length of the upper spine and scoot the bolster down so now it's replacing the block, okay? And I went too far down. So I'm going to lift up my knees, draw the knees up, And then if I can still kind of touch that block, just depends on if your block took off or not. I know I'm a little too far down, so I want to just scoot enough, okay? And you're going to scoot into it with the ball, okay? So grab, grab a ball. I think you need a squishy ball in this. Tennis balls won't work. Okay. Now, ball center of the knees, arms out to the shape of the letter T, okay? Clear it, clear the pathway, and then going side to side. Okay, feet could be touching. I think kind of feeling the feet move apart would be challenging for your hip. It doesn't need to happen. So instead of trying to make it, the nice thing about Zoom is you get to make this as comfortable as you want, right? There's not a lot of comparison or competition, and we really are trying to create a better inner experience anyway. So if I'm going side to side with my pressure on my lower back, I'm getting that nice amount of heat and circulation to my back muscles. So I just say, let it be that, just that pure and simple. Ball center of the knees so I can support the spacing. It's even as far as I can tell. As I go side to side, you might feel, okay, if you bring your knees a little bit closer towards your ribs, does that feel better on your back? Use the bolster to kind of rub into the back. Okay, take a few more moments. We won't do a countdown. We'll just go with the feels. And when the arms are out, if you bring the elbows in closer, does that feel better? Or if you move the arms out a little bit. Okay, it's like elbows in and then arms a little bit out. And I find that there's not a big difference for me. I just like to do anything that will help open up the chest. So I feel like this arm reaching out is the best, but some of us might feel more comfortable in our shoulders, in our chest or pec muscles if the elbows are closer in. Okay, now last time when you come back in center, let the legs lift up and slowly squeeze into that ball. If it's not in the right spot, sometimes it's got to be just right. The legs can be straight-ish, they can be bendish. I highly recommend you let your eyes relax and go with the feel of it, because if you look at them and you're trying to get them a certain way and you're not really in the body with it, you're looking at it, then just feel as you squeeze into that ball the amount of energy that cycles through the leg pit and pelvic floor, okay? And if you don't feel good on the bolster, this is too far up or too far down, you shift it, okay? Generally speaking, you want the tailbone kind of right at that center so you can feel the lumbar spine area on the bolster. That's general. Okay. Now, feel the hinge of the hips here. You're going to bend through the knees, take the ball out, and then replace the whole idea here with a sandbag. So we're going to be knee friendly here. So if you like to put sand on your shins, that's up to you. But we're going to go with a little bit more caution there. So if I bring the knees in, I'm going to try to scoop up my sandbag with my feet. So I'm going to put it on my feet first. And I take the position of my feet to actually be a little bit apart. So when I push up, I can feel each thigh bone. And I got to admit, I don't really feel my thigh bone rest in my hip socket, although that is a cue we give. But I find the feeling of my tailbone pressing downwards is my favorite cue that my teacher gives. I like that for this. I feel that invites me to feel that a foundation, creating more strength up into my hips. Okay, definitely at the femur, right? We all want that for our bones. We all want this area to feel like it's getting kind of loaded. So when you're in this shape, you can let the arms reach together at the hands interlacing. Sometimes I like to take a block and place it on my belly. I have to remind myself to do this one sometimes because my legs will sometimes draw back, which is a big no-no. Okay, we want the verticality out of this one. So you push a little bit into the legs. You're not trying to move them away from you. You're trying to move them just straight up. like if you're doing a headstand, right? You're not going to want the legs to go either of those directions. You want to line everything up, stack everything up for that benefit for your heart, right? Not for flexibility, although it does require some to get here, I think. Okay, now if you've got that block, you could hold on to it at the widest setting, right? And bring the arms back overhead. You could hover over the ground. You could bring the block all the way to touch if there's a blanket back there. That seems to be pretty helpful. And then notice if the legs try to move down or back, bending a little bit into the knees so that the feet can flex, and perhaps closing your eyes and just feeling the movement of the abdomen, right? I think of the abdomen as lifting the belly and that kind of movement in the organs, right, as I breathe. It's also that I'm upside down-ish, right? Head below, heart-ish, right, in this position. Pelvis is up. And just scanning the energy that moves from the back of the leg to the back of the pelvis. Okay, now as we begin to shift, I think what we'll do is we'll put the block down by the side yard, in the side yard, and we're going to use our belt. Okay, so I know it's nice to keep sanded as long as you can for the weight bearing, right, for the bones. So if you decide, hey, I feel good with this, I'm going to stay in my Viparita Karani for another couple minutes. Thank you. You could do that. But now as we shift, because it's nice to have options in class, you're going to bend the knees and then take the sand off and be without it. Okay. Sand free. Okay. Now, taking the belt, place it under your right foot, and let's start to move that right leg to the left. So now that we have the load and that kind of circulation into the leg parts, let's just call it that. Okay. Hold on to the belt with your left hand and cross the right leg over to the left. Yeah. Ambition, try not to have too much ambition here. So you're going to roll on that left hip a little bit, and hopefully you're not falling off your bolster. Okay. But sometimes it feels like you kind of have to make that little dip in your bolster after a year or so. You're going to already have yourself, your imprint is on it now. Okay. Which will help you in some of these poses. So when you're stretching out through that side band of the leg, right, the IT band, all these little bands, okay, feel if you can bend the right leg and try to just extend it. I don't want to say straighten, because no, not all of us want to straighten our leg and have that resistance, but feel how your belt is on your foot. So if my hand is pulling my belt down like so, like I'm cranking on it, it kind of pulls the side of my knee a little itty bit. So you might bring your left arm up like you're trying to do a little bicep curl, okay? Your bicep curl pretending. And do a little bit of bending and lengthening in that right leg. Bending, small movement, smaller pulses than you think. Like an interesting pop there. That was interesting. So feel, now if your foot's turning in, like you could see mine, no good. Flex it and make sure that the belt is at the ball of the foot or closer to the heel. So it helps keep the foot from turning in. And just take a few more moments of these bending and extending. You know, feel how it loads the top of the thigh, the side of the leg. We have a lot of habits on these crossovers where we just drop our arm to the floor and we drag the foot, turning it in. So just noticing these things. And you could be rolling on your left hip. It's not bad. I'd say let your body lean into itself a little bit. And then as you bend the right knee the last time there, you're going to come on up and hold with both hands. And as you're pulling on that foot, that poor foot, right, it's getting pulled. But the reason I'm doing that, right, is to stimulate the flow back the leg, through the leg, all the way back to my heart. So I'm doing that for more reasons than flexibility, but also that flow in my calf. Okay, so if you're not feeling the calf sensation, you can move your belt a little bit higher on the bottom of the foot. You can try bending the knee a little bit more. Okay, and if it's too much, just slide the belt closer to the heel, and then it's more hamstring. Okay, I like to use a little resistance, so I'm pushing into the belt. Therefore, I'm not focusing on how flexible this is going to be for my leg. I'm not trying to get out of that mindset. It's taken some years. A little bit of acceptance, working on stability, not flexibility. It's nice to have a balance of them. Okay, now left foot up, legs push out. If you have a big loop, you might have to be a little careful here. It might be too big. So you want to have it so you have a pretty standard kind of V shape, right? And everyone will have a different interpretation of that, I bet. So when you push out into the belt, hands free, okay, then I kind of feel my knees center. I don't want to pop them out. I definitely don't want to pop them in, but my tendency is out anyway because the feet are out on this one. So just feeling that flow back through the leg pits and give it a little bit of time, just some time science-wise, so it's meaningful for circulation flow back to the legs inside, not the stagnation that happens right when we stand on our feet. And that's just living, right? We're going to have that part of existence. Refresh the legs and the feet. Okay, now with a bend of your legs, okay, sometimes this is kind of entertaining to feel just with your eyes closed, like, okay, it's just sometimes disorienting. But as you bend the knees, you're going to reach up and hopefully find a belt there, okay, and pull to bring the feet together. Right foot lowers down and leg releases down. Now, let the leg be part of the hip, right? It is. The pelvis kind of owns the leg, right? So as we hold onto the belt with the right hand, the belt's under the left foot, and we're just going to cross the left leg over and bend the bottom leg. And if you get stuck near a wall or anything in your way, be sure that it's not limiting your range here. Okay, so you might have to move a little bit, but here's the emphasis. And I noticed different on my second side. This foot is not flopping as much. My other side has got the side that's connected to knee issues. Interesting, right? So you want a real hearty, tone feeling here. Like it's not necessarily super fun, but as I bend through the knee, I'm pulling. I'm gonna get my arm off the floor because that's lazy, isn't it? Okay, bend the knee and try to extend it. I know if we come together and do the class, maybe we'll do things that are a little bit activating sometimes, motivation to be in a group. So when I bend, I kind of notice, and this is good to look to my knee, and I push over to the right with my leg, kind of feel the connecting of the bones, connect the dots here. So as you bend the knee, and even if your elbow's on the floor, you're still a good poser. Don't worry about it, but try to get a little bicep curl in there to bring some energy and heat into the back. Okay, a couple more, just bending and straightening. If you want nothing to do with this part, you can keep the leg stretching over, that's fine. Okay, and then offer that reach through the side band of this left thigh. You could rub into the side of the upper leg. It always feels kind of helpful on your way. You feel the fibers, right? How they stack on top of each other, one muscle over another muscle, all kind of tightening up here to support you, okay? And then as I come up, I'm going to bend my left knee a little bit, and then as I feel that connection back into my hip socket, I'll bring both hands to hold the belt as they're already there and pull, okay? And feel the bottom leg. Is it just turning out? Probably. See if you can kind of monitor the weight into the back of the pelvis. Maybe you step into the right foot and you kind of wag your tail and feel what would it be like to have my bottom leg with the foot kind of up versus turning out. Like, how can I make that work? Okay. And you can walk your hands up on the belt. Some people, their hands get tired. They got to open and close the hand. Some people wrap it around the skin on the top of the hand like a gymnast would do, but I don't know, I find it's about the same for me. And so as you're pulling, feel if your foot is pushing. Pulling, pushing. This is all in benefit to our back side that we're working on coming up in our lower back care. So feeling as you're pulling, breathe. It only helps. Okay, now as we shift out of this whole little series here upside down, okay, take a moment with both feet up and the belt without them moving apart, right? So the legs lift up. And I don't know about you, but I think of this as my feet going up versus my legs when I, kind of give myself the instruction, I guess. So I'm going to try to get a little bit out of that one. So I've got my loop. This is probably a little too small. So I'm going to loosen it up. And this is what the idea is. My hands come together with the belt around my kind of my wrist area towards my thumb. And then I just bring the palms together and keep the arms reaching and breathe. So if you want the loop bigger, go for it. You don't have to have it a certain distance. It's going to be personalizing it. And then feel if the legs, move away, right? Tractioning into the thighs. And if you pull with your palms together, back overhead. Take a few moments just to feel the feels of the back space stretching, that reverse flow back to the heart. Okay, now bending into the legs, and then pull the belt to the chest, and then take it off your feet, and knees side to side, hips get touched down, and we're going to start to come into side sage. So if you kind of know that pose, this is a good one to just kind of explore the explorers of transitions. That's where I think it's very interesting in these classes. So I'm going to try to roll left, and at some point I'm going to lose the bolster support. So I'm going to slide down. How'd it go? All right. Have a block, and you already got one stuck there. So you're going to put it on the other side of the blankets, and let's roll out our ribs a little bit. I intended in this session to start with a rib back space, actually massage. So we'll do it now. How about that? Okay. It's never too late to do what you thought you were going to do in the beginning. All right. So ball is at my back, right? Wherever I can lean into the bolster. Doesn't really matter. If you're, I try to get as close to the bolster as I can. And then I'm just going across. Okay, massaging. Now we're all different heights and lengths with our core, so it's going to feel different spot for everybody. So if you decide I don't like this bolster, I don't want to be on it with the ball, you could be on the floor with the ball. I like to hold my head so I can lean my head back a little bit, and it's not tightening up any more than it already feels like it does. And then go to the left rib cage. See if you can stay on the ball. Okay, and then roll to the left rib cage. And now the ball is at the back corner of my left ribs. I'm going to put my left arm down, at least my elbow, my forearm down. Yeah, if the ball starts to move to your chest, it's too far forward. So you want it at the side to the back ribs, and you're just going to turn, your legs can be stacked in a fetal position. And then taking some motions, pressing down to your elbow, opening the chest. And if you don't want to move your head with this, you can have your head leaning down. Okay, nobody's required to move their neck on this one. Okay, now when you're feeling that little small, it's not a big movement, is it, across? It's probably like an inch of movement in the ribs. So what I want you to do now is just bring your right hand down and breathe. Like you're trying to push into the ball with your rib cage. And now we're going to take the ball out Okay, we're gonna take our blankets, stack them up. Okay, so they're about as high as your bolster. Whatever you're using, pillows, towels, it's about the height of your bolster. And then a block on the other side, and place the ball on the inner right knee, and don't forget your sandbag. Okay, all right. So the sand is an option on the outer right thigh or up to the rib cage. Okay. So I would say if you're focusing a bit on, well, bone density, bone stuff, you go onto the hip. But breath, gonna go up on the ribs. Okay, but I'm gonna go with hip. So as I stretch the right arm overhead, feel the length, right? Feel that reach through the side body. Extend and let the weight of your head relax into the blankets. If you need more height under your head, just take it, right? Just fold it up once more. It's always okay to add support. With that reach of the right arm, let the side body feel its initial elongation. You can even feel how the hip moves when you're in somewhat of a still pose, right? My left arm is between the bolster and the blankets. Yeah, and some people work on reaching with their left arm. I like to just relax it. And then after probably 30 seconds, my right shoulder is feeling like that's enough. And I might move it around, kind of let the elbow soften and feel that loosening in the shoulder, chest. I might let the right arm rest down on my side or the hand lower down to the bolster or the floor. Okay, relax your neck. You decide if you want to keep your arm overhead, that's fine. But feel into that right side body, breathing slow. Just let the weight of your head completely relax. Breathing, noticing if it feels so easy, you're wondering why stay. So it's okay to get that range of motion initially, and then it kind of wears off, right? If you find a more comfortable shape or you're in it for some time. So I think of that as like you're letting the therapeutic shape kind of load into the body, right? As far as how it changes the circulation in one side or the other, right? It's different than what I do habitually in the day. So to me, that's a benefit. A few more breaths here. And let's give ourselves a short sleeping sage pose. I think we all deserve that. So when we, I don't know if you need to deserve a pose or not, but here we go. So turning to the left. So this should be like your easy, I think your easiest pose, but it's a twist. So if I turn my bolster up on top of the blanket, one blanket, right? And then I put a blanket on top of the short end, and then I just lean in. So I bring my left hip as close to the bolster as comfortable. And then I take a twist. So my hands on floor, my spine arching, and then feeling how does the right side of the torso relax into the twist. Yeah, I think having a class here and there and focusing on gentle twists is kind of fascinating. So when I lean in, once I start coming down, my right side of the torso that felt a little bit of a kind of squeeze, right? That's what twists do. They squeeze and soak. That goes away for me. So if it doesn't go away for you, what I recommend is maybe you have the legs stacked in a fetal position, arms relaxing, I like to have the leg back so I can kind of inquire a little more in my hip flexor and the psoas, but who's to say that the other one isn't better if you're more comfortable? So relaxing your brain into feeling the breath. A new way to be on your jaw, right? So feeling if you're pushing on the left side of the jaw, does the right side feel pressure? So sometimes if you push one side to stretch it, the other side can feel a little tension. So relaxing the face. Next level stuff, huh? No sand required. Feeling the twist. Okay, now with your hands sliding back in towards the bolster, opening out through the hand, the fingers. If it feels like it's going to be a lot on your wrist, bring the hands out a little bit further apart. And then when you come up, see if you can make your way to hands, knees. If you need a blanket under your knees, just add it, take it. Okay, we're going to spend a little time with back care. Okay, with back. I don't want to say back work, but strengthening, stability, and back comfort work. So I want you to take I'm going to put my knees on a blankie, but with the hands on a bolster. So turn your bolster across and bring your hands on top. Make it so that the wrists are comfortable. So it might mean your hand is kind of on the other side of the bolster. So you might have to pull it closer to you. If the shoulders don't feel good with that. So for instance, I feel, and is it okay to feel them pulled? Well, it's up to you. So if I feel like this is yanking on my shoulder, and I think that's good for my existence to cause this kind of inflammation, that's up to you. So I like to find a way my elbows are relaxing. Okay, they're kind of resting in. Ask them if they're relaxing, right? Let your head lean down, even if it's touching the bolster. It's okay. And if you want more stretch, your bolster is a little bit farther away, isn't it? So it's up to you, but let the back kind of lurk in this position. Okay, so my arms are reaching, my head is centering between, or it's on the bolster. Breathe. Okay, now hands are going to come down to the floor, and then as you carefully straighten the arms up, arch the spine into cow pose, chest forward, and then round the back into cat. Chin towards the chest. Inhale, arch. Exhale, cat. Could be an arching cat, huh? So as the chest moves forwards and the spine rounds, I think of this as kind of curling motion through my spine. And then next time you come back to neutral. Okay, and the connecting layers of these fibers, I think is still a mystery to me, because I can feel the kind of the locomotor skills here of my pelvis, but it's this linking in the middle, right, that I want to find some healing, I guess. So when I turn my bolster lengthwise, get rid of the blanket under, okay, and actually use that blanket on the other side. So I'm going to go ahead and come on down, center on the bolster. The bolster might touch part of your legs, right? It might be pretty high up on the leg. It's really individual here. So I tend to move my knees apart enough so my lower back finds some ease when I lower down, right? If my knees are together, it's sort of like, like cobra pose strength work, right? So I'm just gonna have my legs a little bit apart to relax my lower back. And I'm gonna bring my elbows actually down to Sphinx pose. This is what I intend. So elbows down and just find that arch through the spine. Okay, if you find you're really kind of tightening at your neck to hold this up, there's a couple things you could do. You could put a block under your forehead, right at the hairline, a little bit below that is pretty good, because you can relax your neck this way. If that's too hard, because blocks are not always the most comforting to push into your forehead, you can put like a towel or a blanket on there. So this would be a good homework one. To be here, maybe give yourself like time it for 2 minutes or so. Get some traction in the neck, okay? So I'm not slumping my forehead down to my bolster, right? That's the difference. So if you find this somewhat interesting, you probably put a towel on here, right? If you practice it again. Okay, feel the ribs move into the bolster. So when you're down here, I want you to feel kind of this rib terrain expand and center. Just feel that movement there in that front space. Okay, now bend your knees, okay? And just bend the knees so that the feet kind of draw towards your seat. They're just drawing in. The heels are drawing towards the seat, that's all. Now slide your hands back under shoulders. You can turn them out if that's more comfy. And then let the legs lower down and push into your hands to come into up dog. Reach through the chest forward. Now my shoulders are squeezing in. I'm kind of exaggerating. They're kind of squeezing in. So what I'm going to do is take my hands a little bit further out. That's probably a little too much. And then try to get my elbows drawing in and my shoulders centering. Not necessarily, they can't squeeze back very well, but they're not rounding like this. So pushing and lifting. And that's the best you can do. Like you're coming out of your shell. Think of like a tortoise or something. Lifting up. Okay. So strengthening into back. Now when I come back to table, push, come all the way back, walk your hands back, and then come into a forward fold. So you're going to walk your hands back to your feet down, knees come up, feet come down. And then as you lengthen out your back line, lovely feeling. You can hold your elbows. You can let your arms drain down. So the spine, the shoulders, your head releasing, and maybe even nodding your head side to side. So feeling a little bit of turn through the neck. This is your one opportunity where you're not kind of holding your head up or pushing into the side of your head or anything. You can just get traction in the back space here. I prefer a wall for this, so I would go to the wall if I'm going to spend some time on this one. Feet pretty far away so I can feel more ease in my hamstrings. I'm not going to try to push my feet to the wall. And then just let the spine drain out. You can tell it affects your sinuses because you can hear how I'm talking. I feel kind of a little bit of pressure as I work with circulation. So good. Take just a couple more rounds of slow breath. You can hold your elbows. You can drain the arms down. If you feel like swinging your arms, you could do that too. They're yours to move. No one else is in charge of them. Okay. All right, now feel if you can move your upper spine area, which is that cervical, right to the brainstem. Feel if it moves away from the legs, and then feel as it lowers down. Okay, the face really can feel a lot of circulation and blood flow there. Carefully bend the knees and walk your hands on forward. Feel this as a practice for integration. When I walk my hands forward, I walk my feet back. And as I lower down into my knees, I'm going to turn my bolster to horizontal across, slide down off my blanket, and then get ready for that rib rollout. So I'm going to lean into my right hip, place the ball at the side, Lean in. Now your knees could be together or the left leg back. We're gonna do simply the side of the rib on this one. And my arm goes to the floor. I think that's, to me, what I like to work with. So even if I stay here, let's say, kind of gently hold the back of my neck, or like my skull, and I just roll a little bit to the right and back up, that, I think I like that better. I think I like that better than this. Okay. Part of it's just kind of playing with it. So again, I got my ball here. It's not in the front, it's not in the chest, it's here. And then when I'm moving, I'm just trying to craft circulation right into my rib cage. Okay, so if that doesn't make a lot of sense, lean into the ball. Just put all your weight on it, right? Put your ribs on that ball and breathe. Okay? We did this long ago where we would do the ball in the armpit. I don't know if you remember this, and we'd focus on pushing the ribs out into the ball. Okay, and I got some funny feedback from that, so I thought we're gonna move and try this. I guess armpit breathing isn't really that popular, I suppose. Okay, so now get your blankets. Try to do this with the ball. See if you can. We will give out prizes. Okay, what's a Zoom prize? I don't know. All right, so 2 blankets stacked and block on the other side. Get rid of that ball from the ribs and then place it under the inner left knee. And then as I lean in, I probably get a little bit of flexibility here from that rolling, right? It's only gonna help. Okay, again, don't use a tennis ball on the ribs, only something soft. And then the sand to the outer left hip. Try to keep my bolster so it doesn't turn. You know, they like to move, don't they? And, you know, one hip to the next might have some, if you're connecting to yourself and feeling, you know, this is a great opportunity to notice if things are feeling different. Right? Maybe, I mean, you have different organs on each side, but, you know, it's a check-in time. Kind of feel, okay, my waist feels pretty, you know, maybe it feels different on one side to the next for all kinds of reasons, right? But as we're leaning in, we're giving it an even try on this one. Try to focus on equilibrium. The arm is reaching. And as the hip is grounded, the top hip is, you're trying to persuade that the fibers in that top thigh to extend and just kind of flush out, right? That's why the sand is here. And as the arm is reaching, it gives you that continuous thread. Breathing. And just find where the weight of your head relaxes. So again, more blankets maybe. You know, some of us in our yoga poses like this are going to be different than you're sleeping, right? If you're in bed, you might have a really flat, your pillow, of course, it's going to be a little lower, right? But right now we're working on the current of the hip, the ribs. So give yourself all the support that feels helpful, just take it. Let your head relax. Breathing slow. You know, if the arm is feeling enough already, maybe lower it down or maybe move in the elbow, the shoulder, you know, feeling just the workings of the arm. It's kind of a nice way just to feel the operation of it, or your operation right now. And then just roll into that right hip, move the sand, and see if you can just come into that sleeping sage pose. Okay, so if the ball is under the knee, I would recommend it when you twist down. You want to just turn and let the knee lower and then take the twist to the bolster. Not everybody's going to follow that advice with the ball. Some of us will have the ball. In fact, here's the stack up with the props, and then we lean in like this. Okay, head turns. Now, some of us can have the ball on this one. You can have it like between the knees and then take the twist. Now that would actually be pretty good. So if you're not sure, you can have the ball center of the knees and then turning into the bolster. I like that. It just doesn't make sense if I have the ball under the knee, it lifts up and then it's just not a great knee idea. Okay, but if they're together, it's an okay knee idea. Okay, when I just kind of follow the alignment assignment here. All right, sand free if you want. I can't find a way to get sand on my back with ease. So head turns, arms reach, relax the ribs and breathe. Try to breathe wide into the back. Slide the hands in, push. All right, and then just take that blanket off, and we're gonna take our bolster carefully towards our feet, and then turn. And we're gonna take our two blankets, stack them up. Okay, I've been doing this recently, kind of redesigning some of these seated poses for better posture but I used to do these. So 2 blankets is plenty, right? I have been practicing it with 1 or none, and it's just because I don't want my knee to get pressed into the bolster. That's all. So I'll show you how this goes. I'm just super careful on knees. So we're going to have our bolster on top of, not the ball, but on the 2 blocks. Okay. So take a seat on your blanket or blankets. You're going to be the one who decides how many blankets will I use. Now we're going to have our blocks in front. And I tried this with the blocks at this height. This is how I kind of usually do it, but I kind of like the blocks high as well. So if it's hard for you to lean in, I'm pretty short. So for me, I don't have that issue. So there are some positives about being short sometimes in yoga. Sometimes. This would be one of them. Okay, so I have my blocks low, and if you're thinking I'm a lot taller than her, everybody, you might go higher, but let me show you because this is kind of a new one. Okay, so I got my blankets under my seat. I'm going to shift towards my bolster. This will come into your memory when you did the chair yoga, the bones class. We used to do one with our arm on the chair. So I'm going to have the blankets like so. Now you can tell how when my leg goes under the bolster bench, if my bolster bench was higher, you might find, oh, that's going to be better for me. So you get a little idea of this. Now the back of this right knee, I don't want it to push down and hyperextend. So I like a ball under it. Okay, I really like a ball. But again, if you're hitting the bolster, right, then you bring it higher with the blocks. It's the only tool you're going to have. Or you can go down 1 blanket, right? Okay, I like comfort. So sand on the left side. Okay, so right leg is reaching now. I'm turned to my ribs. So everything's not straight here. There's not a lot of straight things going on in this one, except the bolster is straight across, and my blanket. So my props are pretty straight. But when I turn to the left, I'm going to reach down with my right arm on the bolster. Okay, get it? And you can park it a little closer. See, you can bring it in, you can push it out. You used to use a chair for this. But the only reason I'm a little questioning if you want your bolster higher, your blanket lower, is I don't want your knee to hit the bolster. Okay, so I lean down with the right elbow. I relax kind of sort of my head into my right hand. And then when I'm leaning, I'll bring the left arm to lift up. Okay, now careful on back pinching things here. So when you ask to do back care, I almost always think of this one with back care. So this is kind of what you're going to sometimes get. And It's kind of an old school one we used to do for all different ways with chairs, with the bolster. But when you're leaning down with the right arm, you're going to try to get that left arm to stretch up and towards the, over to the right. Okay, push into your elbow. Feel if you can rotate through the ribs. Breathe. Kind of imagine you have like a beach ball under your right armpit right here. If you have a bigger ball, you could use it, huh? Yeah, I think those really big ones are too big. Lean in and stretch through the side. Anyone feel this? Yeah, you might decide, yeah, I'm not going to put my arm this high. I'm going to have my arm behind my back. This is a good one. There we go. It feels kind of nice. Okay, so give it another few moments. Okay, and as you're kind of finding the final few moments on this one, kind of scan from the left side of the back. By now, maybe have the arm down to the back. And then you're going to press down your right hand on the bolster and then help yourself up, go slow, like you're not sure you're going to be all right, kind of slow, like, okay, I'm going to feel this around. And then right hand to left leg, pull a little bit. So you don't have to pull your patella, but it's probably okay just to hug onto the knee and then take that rotation. And I'm going to keep my left arm around my back. I could put my hand on the floor, try to pry, a little bit more height, but just find where you come around the coat of the spine. Right? We did the side lean. It's a lot of work right in the side body. And so when we turn, I want you to focus on that inner vine of the spine, just stacking everything up. Okay, you can turn your head, you can keep it centered, you can nod your head, you can tilt your ear to the shoulder. You could be thinking, I don't know how it's going to feel when I get out of this one. Breathing. It only helps. Okay, now let go of the knee. And then let's take a forward fold. Okay, so move your sand off the left thigh if you're using it. Lean a little forward, push if your bolster bench is really close. And then you're going to take that right leg to bending and turn right to the bolster. So I'm in what's called a Sukhasana, a simple cross-legged pose. I'm going to get that ball under a leg again. I'm just going to put under the leg that looks like it needs it, the left leg. And then I'm going to reach forward. So what I'm going to recommend you do is take your bolster. Everything's with caution here. And I'm going to put the short end of the bolster down, and I'm going to lean forwards. Okay, so my right leg is crossed forward to the left, and I'm taking a forward fold. And I kind of want to rock a little bit, but I kind of know, and just to be careful on the caution side. And rocking is probably not a good thing to do after that big side reach. Just slowly let the body absorb what you just did. No big shocks. Okay, kidneys kind of settle back where they were before. I guess they didn't leave your body, but they got pulled and squeezed and soaked. Okay, now I like to feel a little bit more of that right hip sensation here. Take another breath here. And then just come back up center. This might not be your favorite part of the sequence. I understand. I get it. But it's a pretty therapeutic one. I think in most of your manuals for therapeutics, you're going to get this for back. So, but everyone's going to make their own choices. So if it doesn't work for you or you need to back off on some of the intensity, just go mild into it. So left leg goes under at least my lower leg from my knee down is under the bolster bench. And then I'm going to turn. So if it's second side and you have differences on the second side that are kind of massive, it is okay if you make your bolster bench higher. Okay. So, but I'm going to try to keep everything as equal as I can and try. So I'm going to slowly pull my sandbag to the right thigh and I'm turning. So I'm on 2 blankets. I have been practicing it with none just to feel it. And I think this feels a little more supportive of my back. Okay. So ball under left knee, turn to the right, okay? You can feel the swivel in the waist, the pelvic kind of presence. This one has a lot of pelvic presence. And then when I lean, it's like I'm like suspenders pose. We used to do suspenders pose where you put the thumbs in the armpits, hands up, okay? Okay, Spanker's pose is this one, Bankers. So I'm gonna lean down, I'm trying to get this to reach, and get a hold of them, these are yours. And then lean down to that left arm on the bolster. And then try to get that traction here in that right side body. And it could be just simply, I don't wanna say just, but you could be here without your arm overhead. Yeah, it's not like magic happens when the arm goes overhead. And so this side is what I'm trying to get that soak in, that low back waistline, the QL area. So I like to feel the dynamic of the arm reaching and feel the breathing with it, like, how the body kind of suspends and moves with the breath. I don't know, you kind of feel stuck in your body sometimes. So creating these movements, I think could be useful for that inner landscape. And the right arm could come back. You could bring your head to your left hand. Yeah. And then the right arm relaxing behind your back. So feel the feels. And if it's, spiky sensations, you don't go as far down. I mean, you could have your hand on the bolster, palm down, and be here and lean a little bit. This is fine. Okay. All right, now come on up to the rotation, right hand back, left hand to the right leg, and kind of work all the way around the corners. Feel as mid back as you can feel in the twist. Like caution here in the lumbars. You want to feel that you're lifting up out of the pelvis and you're turning us through the ribs. Sometimes if you take a breath actually through your mouth, I can feel that. I can kind of gasp and feel my ribs reach out. So I kind of feel that's an interesting way to feel the movement there for a few moments. And of course, that's going to make you more thirsty, dehydrated, but pure and simple, you get the ability to breathe how you want. If you're still able to, right, just find, okay, I can coach my ribs. And then let go of the left knee. See, this side was easy for me to touch down, like a lot easier. It was almost a given for me. So it's kind of interesting. The first side I was a little challenged. So there's these little micro motions to learn week by week, of your body. Okay, now as you turn to the front, you're going to take the sand off. Your left knee points out, and then you come into that seated forward fold. You could have a sandbag on for this one. I mean, you could have a sandbag on the left thigh because you're working your left hip, but again, I'm just trying to keep it super safe. Yes, you could lean into the bolster bench like this. This is taught probably most often because not everybody has a really firm bolster, right? And the other one's kind of smush in half. So let's say your bolster is a real smusher. It's a smusher bolster. It just folds. Then this might be your better choice, okay? But if you have a fairly good bolster, it's, kind of stands on its own. Leaning in, if you're taller than me, everybody, okay, almost everybody, you can put a block under your bolster. Okay, and then it just brings it up for you so you're not shrinking and rounding as much. Take a few moments. We're going to go all the way to the soothing final spinal. And as you're tilting forward, notice where you're tilting. Is it from the pelvis? Yeah, I'm kind of not so sure if I'm moving through my spine or my pelvis here to get to the pose, but I'm letting my back space feel the breath. I think that could be your main thing. Okay, now as we come down, we're going to put the ball in our sacrum. Hooray, my favorites. Okay, so save the best for last. Okay, put the blocks aside. I don't think you're going to need them. Okay, put the bolster. Let's put it on the right side of our mat. I think this will work pretty. No, put it down at the base so your feet can be on the bolster. That'll be better. If it's at the wall, that's fine. and then uncross. And then as you scoot off the blankets, you're gonna bring your feet. I would just relax the legs over so it's not a stress on your back. And then get rid of one of your blankets. Go down to one, only if any. And as I lower back carefully, I'm gonna have my knees point up, my head back on the blanket, and then I'm gonna place the ball after a bridge post. I'm pushing into my feet, lifting my hips up, and then rolling the ball under to the back of my pelvis and sink on the ball. Okay. Now give yourself a little time to sink onto the ball. Okay, and feeling that lower abdominal area and the awareness there as you're sinking in. Okay, and then start to move your hips side to side. So as you kind of find that traction in the pelvis, and it could be a smaller move side to side than you start with. You might kind of go a little bit less hip movement. You might do a little bit more. But I think the key for me is to feel the touch of the ball into my skin and my surface muscles and use that to stimulate the flow of lymph, right? That's the key there, is that we really are trying to get that deep touch. Okay, and we know that's good, right? We know that's going to be good for our circulation, for the lymphatic system. So those vessels drain more easily. So just when I find one area, especially these thicker kind of areas, right, of the body versus like maybe your forearm, or, this is going to have more blood and lymph flowing through. That's why we kind of go to these areas. All right, now next time you come back to center, walk the feet in a little bit and lift the hips up and lower back down. Now you still have that ball, so it's kind of this bouncy kind of trampolining at the base of the spine. So I'm going to encourage you to move the ball over to the off the back space and do a few drawbridges to go up and down the spine channel. To feel the hip center down, really go to feeling mode here. If the blanket's too much under your head, then you just push it away for a few moments as your arms stretch overhead and stretch up through the spine and then down. Sometimes I forget how good this can be for my back. And I may not visualize this as stretching my spine, but I don't know what else would be stretching your spine more than something like this, right? Because of the alternating flexion and extension, and there's no need to go rapid. Just go slow, maybe one or two more drawbridges. If you like the blanket under your head, it's okay. I like that circulation up the shoulders without the blanket. Okay, now next time you come down, add a little bit of blanket under your head and then place the ball at your right rear and roll out the glutes. Move into the ball, push and glide. Okay, so the ball could be a little higher than you've had it maybe sometimes because we've done more back work today. You might be feeling a little sensitive, so you want to get closer towards the back area to rub. You can use the ball to massage the lower back, not a tennis ball for the lower back pressure, but a soft ball. So you could go to that right now if you feel like the glutes are not really your thing. So you get to decide. And then we're going to move the ball to side 2. So I'm on the glute border. So what I do is now I'm going to put it to the left glute. So when you are on glute 2, keep going with it. Remember, the ball is going to be placed at rear, and you're rolling to the glute border and then towards the center. And you might stay on the border, right on the glute knee, because it just feels so nerve rich. It just feels like, yeah, that's where the knots are, and I could use that release. That's where inflammation lives also, right? So you might go, okay, I'm going to push there, or you glide to your back. Now, if I go to my back, I'm not a big fan of it like this, but, you might need that, okay? But be careful. If it doesn't feel right, don't do it, okay? Or if it feels kind of strange but good, go for it. Okay, now feel that crossover through the glute, superficial fascia. And I feel that top layer getting swooshed into and stretched across towards the middle, right? You're gliding across,
pushing your hip, feeling that weight into the feet and then pushing across the ball into the hip. Okay, it's kind of nice just to swipe across and work on that mobility and circulation. And then as we try an actual pose, right, we're going to come down onto the right hip, back of the pelvis, and then take the bolster to the right side of your mat and cross the left leg over to it. Okay. Now your ball can go towards the back of the pelvis. You can kind of smush it in and then add a sandbag here to the outer left thigh. Okay. If you don't want to use a sandbag, that's fine. This feels pretty good for me, like this. And then if I add the sand and I feel like, yeah, that's feels the same, or maybe just a little more grounding, then that would be a plus. You want that booster. So the sand can be a booster in all ways of the practice. It's always a booster for grounding, for sensation. And then as your chest is open, hopefully, if it doesn't work this way for your shoulder, you can put a ball under it. Like maybe the ball does nothing for you there at the pelvis. Maybe you put it under that upper left side to your shoulder, right? To the rotator cuff. You're kind of putting it there and shrugging your shoulder up and down. I just feel that that feels good. So you can always opt for that. And just feel that pure awareness into the mid body, revolving the core. Expanding out of the twist. And now switch sides. Take your time. If you've got a ball, move it over to side 2. Take the sand. I sometimes will put on my lower belly. Okay, sometimes, not usually, but do that today. And then move the bolster to left side. Now, as I move my hip to the second direction, if you feel like rolling the glute on the right side before you go over with the leg, that's up to you. Okay. We already did both sides, but some people like to refresh it before they take the crossover. And then the right leg stretches over. So think about the parts of the leg. Well, you don't have to labor yourself with thinking about all the things, but you know, the parts of the leg that are getting drawn across and resting onto the bolster and kind of refreshing that tissue. So when the right arm opens, you might have the ball at the back of the pelvis. You might have it under the shoulder. If your shoulder comes down easily, it's still okay to use a ball there and just massage into that area. So it's not as if you have won if your shoulder's down and there's no further to go with it. You might find a little bit of movement with the arm out. A ball under can feel good. I think you want a ball that helps it feel good. Not, I sometimes will use a tennis ball or something like it, but I don't think it necessarily feels good. So as you're opening out through the chest, let your arm relax and your head roll to the right. In the final spinal, here we are, breathing, receiving, feeling that rotation. And feel just the right amount of expansion out of the twist. Now I'm kind of visualizing like turning, and then expand, right? And the way I can expand and express that extension is because I'm able to create this rotation, kind of the root in my hip. If that sand pack is too high up, you might move it down. If it's too low, you might decide to move it off the last few moments. There's never a requirement except to breathe. That's about it. Sometimes having your head center is more important than turning it. Okay, now move the sand aside and let's go to our legs up. Okay, so we'll move the ball aside. Now, if you've craved knees to chest, do so. Okay, if you're feeling like I'm just getting my length in my back, just getting it back, I'm gonna roll to the left, fetal position, push into my hands, walk my hands back to my hips, and then take the bolster to the wall. Now, if you're gonna build a bolster bench again today, you can do that in the center. You can put your blocks under your bolster and put your legs up on the bolster bench. Yeah, that can work really nice. But if you've got the opportunity to use a wall space and you're comfortable with that, you can have a bolster at the base or a blanket. I could simply have this blanket at the base to come get my hips up on. Now I'm going to sit up on the edge of the bolster, kind of on the edge corner, so I'll have the whole bolster to roll on. And then as I lower down, I'm going to roll my shoulder and my sacrum to come up. I think the interesting part is rolling the sacrum to come up. But once you're upside down, you don't really want to mess with too much. Even if you're not right at the wall, I'd say accept it. You can move your bolster away from the wall to support you. Okay? So you want to feel it like we did earlier with the pelvis kind of right at that edge of the bolster. So if you slide back, and it's not going to feel that good. You want the bolster under you if you're using one. You definitely want it under you. Otherwise, it's kind of a crash course in uncomfy backs and low backs, actually. So find the support. If you don't like the bolster used for this, you can use a blanket, and then maybe a blanket under your head. Okay, maybe pull it down so it's at the cervical vertebrae, that it's plenty in, and then with a sandbag option at the soles of the feet. Okay. If you prefer to have sand on your rib cage, that's up to you. I like the sand for certain on my feet. Okay, with the feet a little bit of spacing apart, we're going to bring the legs up. We're going to plant the heels to the wall or on the bolster bench if that's what you're using. And have the knees a little bit apart. Don't try to push them together. And feel when they are apart, just the right amount of apart, so that the back of the pelvis and the tailbone and the sacroiliac feels like it's supported. It's like you're stacking everything up and you're aligning and creating some support for your bones here. It's stacking them up upside down so there's not prolapse or the dropping that happens as we mature day after day, right? Dropping down, gravity will have you. So this is why inversions and chest openers are so important, right? As we get older. So our hands can rest on our ribs. They can rest down below the heart. So they're not going to be as high as the heart to calm and soothe the nervous system. So come into this final pose. Let your arms relax. If you have an eye pillow, I want to place a cloth over the eyes so you have that curtain of darkness. And secure that flow of breath. Feel that that's a secure experience. Breathing and healing. And noticing maybe the heart beat. The movement of the abdomen as you inhale. And as you exhale, relaxing the heart. Let the bottom teeth relax from the top, from the jaw pressing. And now with the legs just moving a little bit away from the wall. If your legs are up on the bolster bench, leave them. Just let them be a little longer. And then giving our feet an opportunity to have no pressure for a little bit since they get stepped on again soon. So if your knee feels this, if you have a knee that's feeling this as you come into this squat, try to emphasize the work of your glute. So sometimes it drops into the joint in an interesting way. So I have to remind myself, use the back of my legs, my upper legs when I bring the knees towards the chest. And then as I move the sand off, then you can have the legs back up, nothing on the feet. They might be a little tingly, a little cool as the blood moved out of them right back towards the heart. So the blood pressure really drops. So this is why we don't suddenly stand up after this. Okay, so let it integrate into your right vascular support, lymphatic, nervous system. So as we bend through the legs, we're gonna just clutch onto the backs of them or the knees of them, the knees of the legs, and then roll to one side. Take it a little slow. Let your body roll, not just the hip movement fast, but the upper, and then come around to come up to sitting. And feel kind of already the residue of the practice, right? This hopefully stays with you for a little while. And as we settle into the hips again, let the shoulders center down, lifting slightly through the heart. Feel the sitting bones press. You try to lean a little forward of the sitting bones for the arch of the spine. That's general education in sitting, but you might find you push back and you round and then come up. So bring the hands gently towards your heart and find a moment here before you spring into action to breathe, nurturing, balance together, breathing and wellness. Inhale. And then as we exhale, soften the belly and bowing into the peace within your heart.